Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another backtesting episode. So I haven't backtested for a few days, so it's going to take a moment just to get back up to speed. So I'm just going to quickly review. Let's just quickly review what we ascertained. So daily. Let's pop out to the daily. So a quick look. Okay, so we've got a bit of notes on there. So daily to the upside following displacement, which was initiated by high time frame crack correlation at the lows there. So we've probably seen continuation of that. Old lows being manipulated, old highs being displaced through, confirming institutional order flow to be bullish. H4 is potentially we'll have to see. We'll have to see what occurs there, but potentially is showing signs of a pullback. So, I mean, initially it was to the upside, but prior to obviously Wednesday's price action, if we look from sort of here, then obviously that's sort of showing something different. Yeah, sort of showing something different. So, and then obviously we've seen potentially on NQ IRL to ERL, possibly, but we'll see. Okay, so institutional order flows being bullish. That's the most important thing to take away. So, we're going to obviously, let's just check on the hourly, see where we are, and then we're going to clean up the charts a little bit. Okay, so we got to midday. That's a 4 hour, I believe. Okay, so I'm just going to let's sort of clean up the charts before we go on to a new day. Going to remove that as well. That. Want to remove the same things as well off. And then we can just essentially reevaluate where we are with price as we head into the new day. Okay, and we've got a little there. Okie dokie, and I'm actually going to remove that as well. Right, so whilst we're on the hourly, let's get a 15-minute. So we're at lunchtime. Well, let's not be too hasty. Let's drop to the 15-minute time frame. And in fact, let's go back out to the hourly, but just drop the interval to the 5-minute. I've got no. Sorry, bear with me. Let me. Yep. So let's just play on and see before we go on to Thursday. Let's have a look. Okay. So rejection. Now, interestingly, I think that's a CB H4. So that there has formed SMT. If we pop out to the 15-minute, it's interesting. Let's see the 5. We have displacement here, which is aligned. So chance that we could see lower prices from here. Let's have a look at that. Potentially to this inflection point. I mean, NQ does look really bullish, but let's see. Okay, it's not bad. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Perfect. Look, isn't that something? So we would have had bullish order block. The extremes obviously here. Let's see the M5. That's there. So let's have a look. Yeah, could take all of that as the bullish order block in theory. Take all of that, including the highs. But if you wanted to, quite plausible to just take the extreme or take from here. But the reality is it's all of them. And then it's a case of, does it deliver? Now, the reason why I didn't get involved in that, I will explain in a second, is so you're looking at, if you wanted 2 to 1, you're looking at there. Let's see if it delivers. I can't see why it wouldn't, but it has traded into a BISI, so I can't see why it wouldn't deliver. What time is it? Okay, fair enough. Looks like it wants to push through. There you go. Okay, fine. So delivered at 3:45. Fine. When I go out to the hourly, let's just see, unless it changed. There was no hourly liquidity pool purged on ES. That's why I wouldn't have taken it, and that would have been the divergence pair, obviously with NQ. Had it taken a H1 liquidity pool, that would have been a different ball game. But the H1 liquidity pool is well, actually, let me just double check, because now I'm actually looking at the wrong model. Yes, H1 liquidity pool is mandatory. Yeah. So yeah, as I thought. Yeah, as I thought, we want to see H1 liquidity pool engaged. So that's why that wouldn't have been the case. But anyway, so what we're going to do, I think I'm probably going to clean up the charts, just to get a feel. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe I can just get rid of like this one, this one. I mean, this overshot. In fact, let's clean it up. Let's sort of start from. Let me see. Do I want to? So that was high probability. Didn't draw it in, but nonetheless. Okay. Yeah, I think let's clean this up. Let's do that. Okay, and then we'll go to the hourly. Just want to get to the new session. Just want to check the economic calendar for. Okay, so yeah, no economic calendar news for the remainder. So go to the next session. Okay, you can just park it there for the time being. So let's go out to the H4. Sorry, not the H4, daily. And let's go from there. Okay, so we know we've got a daily imbalance in here. we want to mark that up. No, not that. That's better. Okay. And we want the aligned on. Just taking our time with this, no need to rush. And do we have an aligned on YM? We don't. That is fine. It's not a problem. Okay. So, want that reference from here. Ultimately, we've got these two levels. I'm just going to use the 4 hour. Okay, perfect. That's fine. So we've got low here, which we want that range in. Okay. I just want to pop back out to the daily, just so we can sort of clean this up a little bit. And we want the aligned low, which is perfect. And I also want that here. Now we do obviously have lower lows in here, but not necessarily too concerned by those at present. And then I guess this is the current high, which I don't want to mark that off relative to the daily, so we'll keep that to one side for now. Okay, so from a daily standpoint, happy with those. Drop to the 4 hour. Sorry, I just want to check something. Okay, yeah, fine. Right, so concentrating on this week, we obviously have this high. Okay, so that's that high. It's the same height. And in fact, let's just step through this way. So we've got low, obviously that was the high, going into no low here, but we've obviously got this high, so there's no low, so we head into Wednesday. We have this low. We do have a high here, but it's close proximity, so don't necessarily want to. We've got that low, that high again, no low. We have this high, but not so worried by that. And that there, and then on here, that starting from there, that high. Ultimately, this high, which is Q3, that's what formed high time frame SMT. And interestingly, no real low. Okay, so that's the Q1 low. So I'm just getting all of my aligned PD arrays, if you will, or POIs, or whatever you want to call it. Now for and then we want okay, so here, there, and then finally, oh, I never marked the high. Okay, so I'm happy enough with that. There's just some other elements I want to mark up. Obviously this aligned basically because we saw repricing happen there, so I'm interested in that. And I just want to see on on NQ, sorry, on YM, we've traded below. I'll just move around on my noisy chair. And what is also important is the fact that I think it's this one here. Well, we can mark that. I fancy marking this more so. Was a rejection from here. Okay, and let's just enlarge this, which is there. And oh, look at that, almost perfect. Okay, that's further down. Okay, but could well be traded into. Right, so just want an unconfirmed on this. confirm because I haven't confirmed it yet. It's a very shallow run, so I'd expect something deeper than that if we were really going to see something transpire from there. I believe. I just want to pop out to the daily, just have a look at daily. No, that's fine. Okay, so that's given a better representation there. There's obviously some intrigue per se. Okay, let's get into our analysis. See if we can end the month off strongly. So we want to pop out to the daily. We want to determine institutional order flow. So relative to this time frame, still bullish. It's certainly still bullish. So relative to the daily TF, IOF is to the upside, following the high time frame displacement, which was initiated by the high time frame cracking correlations at the lows. So it's similar narrative to what we had before. That hasn't changed relative to the daily. Okay, we can see how bullish fair value gaps are being repriced and rebalanced, or being left unfilled, with the market showing a willingness to reprice higher. Okay, so that's key. Now just pop to analysis. Okay, so we don't have any breakaway gaps, despite this being a breakaway gap. I mean, that's not what we don't have any further breakaway gaps despite this one, so we could still well be seeing high prices. We've seen old lows being manipulated, whilst old highs are being displaced through. Okay, supporting the idea of IOF being bullish. Okay, so let's drop down to the H4, see what this time frame's doing. Okay, so we did have a cracking correlation at the highs. Here, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so we did have one at the highs. So the H4 appears to have flipped bearish following the high time frame cracking correlation and the market violating a discount PDA, which was this one here. So just, you know what, just for reference, this inversion there, we'll put this inversion up. Okay, that one there, which overlaps with lapse with that. So confirming an IVG H4. Now I typically don't tend to trade IVG H4s, but just wanted to make that reference, as you can see. Why I am gonna clear them because I just don't want an overload on the charts of PD arrays and things that I don't typically use. Okay, so that's the H4 time frame. We think that is flip bearish. Okay, so ERL/IRL. Again, if we just go back out to the daily, so we purged this high. Now I'm not saying that this now means does not mean that all of a sudden we're bearish. Basically what I'm alluding to. But as we can see with YM, again, if we just use the unconfirmed okay, so following market purging the old high weekly, where I have noted on confirmed high time frame SMT, if this is confirmed, then my immediate attention would turn to the BISI daily below the marketplace as the next high time frame objective. Okay. However, that may not be the case. That's if that is confirmed. If it's not, if we confirm a cracking correlation at the lows, then the external range liquidity will still be the high time frame objective. Right, so SP, drop down to the 4 hour. What's that then? There is certainly potential with this fair value gap in here. And this key price level. That could certainly be the case of seeing higher prices. I'd want to get to the New York session, see if that's confirmed, to be honest. See further what price wants to do, but nonetheless, so I have noted the clean and clear swing points above and below the marketplace, referencing the previous day's high and the previous day's low. Furthermore, this is where near-term liquidity would reside. Okay. Important to note that the previous day's low for NQ has formed above the true week open, whilst ES and YM have formed below. This indicates low probability conditions at the lows. For me, in terms of my model, that's what that represents. Okay, so TO currently ES and NQ are above their true week open, whilst YM is trading below. This could represent low probability conditions. However, with NQ and ES aligned, there is still potential to engage the market, but it is lower probabilities. We want complete symmetry, ideally. So Kraken correlation. So we noted a Kraken correlation at the highs. I'm not necessarily going to draw it in. That was what was the catalyst for price to move lower. I had noted the high time frame SMT at the highs, which was the catalyst for seeing lower prices. So I was just thinking about if there's anything else to add to that. We obviously had the Kraken correlation here, but we couldn't frame a model. So I will note that. Furthermore, we had a high time frame Kraken correlation at the CB H4 supporting the idea of lower prices. So what am I saying here? For me, again, in terms of my own model, if we look at the CB, this high down, that high up, not going to draw those in, but that's what we're alluding to. Okay, so now we're up to game plan. So I'm not going to formulate the game plans yet. We're going to push time on to the New York start, more or less the start of the New York session. Let's go to next session, see what we have, and then we can go from there. Okay, so interesting. So let's have a look here. What have we got? Right negative equal lows. Do we have anything on the H4? No, other than the SIBI. Sorry, BISI. So let's. Okay, let's get this right. Not necessarily looking at that to hold, but we never know. Trade what we see. Okay. So back to the hourly. We have there we go. Okay. Not really seeing any liquidity pools at the lows. Here we go. Sorry, that took a while. Okay. So yeah, not going to mark up this low because yeah, I'm not it's not aligned. Okay, so let's venture back out and have a look at what we've got. So ES and NQ above their true week open. So potential, if we get a high time frame, if we get a cracking correlation, excuse me, at this London high for a continuation lower, that's a possibility. If we see a low time frame cracking correlation above the BSL LDN, with price also above the true week open, this could set the stage for lower prices. Okay. Number two. Not really. Let's go to the higher time frame. I'm not keen on where this low is formed in relation to the true week open. And you know, as the rules of the model states, certainly ES and NQ, we want them trading on the same side of the true week open. So going long could well be a little bit more challenging, should we say. But we'll have to see what happens. Let me just check to see if we have anything else worth noting. So if we were bullish, I mean, if we were bullish, we could potentially assume that this Kraken correlation has confirmed higher prices. So um, if the market found support at this BCH4, that could set the stage for higher prices. So if the market found support at the BCH4, this could set the stage for higher prices. And by higher prices, we're talking about those highs, previous day's highs. And finally, for further bullishness, if the market if the market found, I'm just checking the other one. Sorry, if the market found support at the BCH4 coupled with an high time frame Kraken correlation, then that could. And this one, if the market found support at the BCH4 and we noted an hourly displacement slash BC, so if the market has and was coupled with an low time frame Kraken correlation, this could support higher prices. So is there anything else which would support lower prices? Not really for me. Unless we got a rejection at the previous day's high, which we can certainly state that, and that could well be a PM session type move. If the market continues to reprice higher and forms an high time frame Kraken correlation at highs, this could set the stage for lower prices. So we have a couple of things to consider here. Oh, okay. Just bear with me. Okay. So we've got our key liquidity pools marked up. We've got everything that we are really keen on seeing. H4, just want to make sure we haven't got no partial levels. Potentially we have with this high. Maybe worth marking that up as well. Not necessarily going to mark up on NQ. Okay, let's drop down. So we've only got equities open that we need to concern ourselves with. So we're going to mark that up. Right, okay, so we've got our clear game plans. We're going to continue with on the hourly. We'll use the 5 minute. We want to get to roughly 8:30. So let's watch and observe and see what happens. And we'll stop the clock at around 8. So we've had a purge of London across all of them, so could support the idea of higher prices. Interestingly, well, we're out of session anyway, so it doesn't matter what is interesting. Let's continue. See what happens. So we're going to get to around 8:15. Okay, there we go. So symmetrical purge, markets traded lower, hasn't presented anything for me by way of a model sort of yet. Within our time windows, which is also important. Going to drop down to the 15, change the interval to the 1 minute. And we're just going to process through prior to 9:30, just to see again what looks to be occurring. Difficult to really determine at present. Okay, so let's just venture out to the hourly and see what we've got here. In fact, let's go to the 4 hour. So we're seeing a rejection from the SIBI here. Let's mark that. Okay. And on. So we've seen a rejection. I'll drop down to the hourly. Sorry, excuse me. Yep, so looking at that doesn't represent a model of any sort to me. So kind of anticipating that the market may continue lower. But we're getting to equities open now. So let's see. There we go. Okay. So interesting. We're going to drop back out to the hourly. Not expecting this Kraken correlation to hold in any way. So sort of traded through this H4 imbalance there, traded through that. No model. Key price level at the lows I think is relatively low probability, but we'll see when price gets there. interesting. Back out. Want to look at the 4 hour. Well, that's certainly a cracking correlation here. Drop down to the hourly. Do have an hourly purge as well. Just check the lows. The relative equal lows. It's questionable. Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, hold on. Let's, before we do anything, it's quite large. Cleared out all that liquidity. Fine. Can't I grab that? Just going to mark that as a potential. I mean, we are seeing that rejection from the CB, so let's continue with this. Just go back to the hourly a second. Not clear in terms of the hourly order block. We could argue that this one here is the one that ultimately was responsible for price going lower. So in theory we could say here it's just going to mark these two up. Okay. If we were going to go higher, where would be the inflection point? Well, certainly the CB would be the inflection point. Certainly that would be one. We can mark that up just as a reference. So as a sort of key. Oh no, not that. Alright, let's just do it this way. Just do H4INF. And let's, yeah, like that. Like so. Let's do that. And this is just purely for reference as to where market could potentially go to. So back at the 15, the M5. So we want to see how the market closes above that. This is where I could really do with an... Okay, fortunately we're going to have to do it. Okay, let's just do that for now. Could change into a BPR. If it changes into a BPR, we'd like that. And it gives us... Okay, so we've dropped down to the 1 minute. I do want to see how this M5 closes. Okay, so the M5 did close above, which means that in essence inside of here we now have an M5 BPR. Excuse me. Let's just extend this a little bit. It's a bit... Okay, like that. Yeah, because I do want to see this on the M15. It just makes it a little bit easier to determine what we do. Okay. So currently though on the M15 we haven't had a close above this level, so we can just wait and see. And obviously we can see now it's invalidated the BPR, so on NQ, so we can take all of that off. This is not a valid yet trade idea. So I'm just going to remove this and remove that, go out to the M15 and just wait and see what happens. So this is still the low. Obviously NQ we could be seeing wanting to go and seek liquidity, but let's play. Just going to be a bit careful. Okay, need to be careful. So I'm going to put back in. Wish I never took them out. Okay, fine. Fine. Let's put that in there. And for now, we're probably looking at there. So let's just see what happens. Now, I just want to drop to the M5 and see. So we can see how on we had this support at this BPR, and we can see how we've got this potential low time frame SMT here. Again, supporting the idea of potential higher prices. But first and foremost, we want to see the market on the M15 close above the key price level. If we just drop out to the hourly, I just want to see if the hourly's confirmed anything, which it hasn't, so that's fine. We'll maintain the M15. Okay, so ES has traded above that key price level. NQ hasn't yet, so as far as I'm concerned, it's not a tradable. Now, we could say that this candle is the order block on NQ, which would make sense, and that would support the fact that NQ has traded higher. Want to see the ES close, so we want to see another candle, because ES technically has not closed above its order block yet, so it's not a trade idea. If we're looking at this area here, ES has not traded above here. So as far as I'm concerned, just because NQ has here, it means that it's not a trade idea yet. So NQ appearing to want to trade lower. Fine. Right, so ES has now traded above, but that doesn't mean anything yet again. Okay, now this is interesting. Okay. Extremely interesting. Let's have a look down on the M5. I like this. I don't like this. But because we've got SMT, that essentially helps mitigate the lack thereof of an imbalance. Just bear with me. Yeah, so I'm looking at this and thinking there is a good chance that we could see higher prices. Now the key is we don't want to miss the boat. I'm just going to go back out to the M15. If we were looking at this, so ES looks like that, but we do have a BPR there, which in theory we shouldn't trade below. Oh, monitor's going to turn off. Okay, sorry, I'm back. I was just having a little think. So let's mark. Well, this formed the low, so in actual fact, this is now the order block to there. So, still want to see whether we close above. It's looking ever more likely. Okay, no, it's not. Certainly not. Okay. So still no trade idea as far as I'm concerned, and that kind of is confirmed by the fact that no displacement on the M5. No displacement on the M5. I mean, it does still look and feel that. Sorry, let's just move this. That the market wants to trade higher, but until we actually see any commitment to want to do so, it's going to drop down to the M5. Let's play this on. Can we get away with that? Yeah. So now that's very interesting. So let's get rid of this. Just want to venture out to the. Let's just get rid of that. That's the M4, which is clearly not supporting. So we're going to get rid of both of those. It's very much looking like this PD array here. Previous day's low. Q3, which is sort of this one here. Not sure why I don't have anything on YM, but let's just put that on there for now. Okay. So invalidated, so I'm going to take that off, but we could still see that this is respecting here, so this could be seeking liquidity. So assume the liquidity here is essentially this here, but obviously it would be a cracking correlation. So we're going to go here. Let's play price on. NQ clearly wants to purge that low. Be surprised if it didn't. And we can see how that. Right, so from an NQ standpoint now, it gives us this. We could, in essence, frame still that. That. Okay. So we're just tracking price at the key price level, which is down here. If we're going to look at the aligned low, we want this order block here. Okay, so we can go to the M5. We want to see, do we... Okay, so now we've got something a little more interesting as well. We've got this inversion fair value gap right here. So we want to mark that up. Okay. So now on the M5, let's just step through and see whether... Okay. Now we should still be inside the 15-minute candle, which we are. Hasn't closed yet. So let's see if we get... Haven't had that confirmation yet. Haven't had it yet. Not yet. Just want to check the M5. Have we seen a... So we've now formed... Not quite. Just going to drop back into here a second. Okay, so we did form a BPR. Let's see if the BPR holds. It's a good sign. That's a good sign. So want to take that there, put that there, and I want to paste the same thing over here. So this is why patience. It doesn't mean that we're still going to engage the market, but what it certainly does mean is that we're remaining patient to ensure we're in the best possible position before we engage. Okay, so that's a good sign. Okay, so I must confess I do feel like NQ has supported the idea of a trade. Let's step through, see what we have. ES hasn't confirmed its order block yet. So this is going to be sort of touch and go at the trade execution window. It's not looking favourable. Ugh, I tell you, this would be, I mean, if you're looking at the framework here, it does seem to support a trade. This would be a just going out to the 4 hours. Just want to clean up my markings and stuff like that. Let's take this unconfirmed. I think we're looking at, yeah, essentially that candle. Now I do feel could take this on reduced risk. On ES. And let's see what we can, if we did take this on reduced risk. So if we engaged now, we've got the BPR and stuff there, so we can potentially, yeah, that would give us more than enough to get there. I think on reduced risk, reduce risk. It's one of those because you do want to see. No, you know what? I want to see the M15. Oh God, no, it's a tough one. This is. Okay, so I mean NQ to me, if we're looking at the M5 framework, it is supporting higher prices. I would ideally have liked to have seen price trade below the 2-day open. This is not exactly the deepest purge. No, I'm going to stick to the rules. We're going to wait for the M15 confirmation on both, and this may fall outside the trade execution window. Oh, that's a horrible sign, isn't it? This is obviously going to go to TP. So we'll play. Yeah. Now, yeah, because I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have risk off here, but I wanted to see the M15 closure. I am outside the trade execution window, so we're going to let this run, and I think, oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I can see this moving higher. So now we've had the confirmation. I can't see price necessarily. I mean, if you look at the M5 structure, I can't see price coming back to the entry. It could well do it, but we are outside of the trade execution window as well, so it sort of reduces, and certainly, so let's just play this on. I think we could have probably been a little bit more risky. Yeah, I think we should have been a little bit more aggressive. It's easy to say that, but we had the M5 framework. That's a shame. Now, yeah, in hindsight, I should have been a little bit more aggressive. And 2R would have been there, which I can't see why it wouldn't hit that. What is that level? Let's just pop out to the hourly. That's the H4. So there's a possibility that that could be far enough, but I suspect we'll go to 2R. There's no reason why it wouldn't. Especially with NQ likely to take out the previous day's high. Now I wouldn't be getting into this because NQ has hit 2R, so you know this would be quite unfortunate if it came back. I mean, rules are the rules. That's the most important thing. The rules are the rules. I like to wait for confirmation. I didn't get that confirmation. I could have been a bit aggressive, yes, but it's not how I prefer to trade. It's not my style. It's not my model. I stick to my rules, stick to my rule-based rules, and then it stops. So it traded into this imbalance here. Now it hadn't hit the 2R, but again, I think NQ had. So let's just check NQ. Well, actually, it has NQ. Yeah, it has, I think. Has it? Not quite. But again, we're outside the trade execution window. Lower risk of profitability. I do think we'll go and take it out, but we'll have to see. Because I think NQ wants to trade up to the previous day's high, and that's what's going to be the catalyst to push price higher. Now, whether ES is going to take out that high, NQ is quite in close proximity to its high, so whether we'll see that push higher. We still have that cracking correlation at the highs regardless, even if NQ takes out the previous day's high. What time are we? We are at 1:45, so we'll see a push around between 2 and 3, maybe even later 3. Here we go. NQ, that's left that tantalizingly there, so we should expect to see a push higher. I'd be surprised if they left that in there. 2:15, probably within the 3 o'clock windows when we'll see price push higher. I'm not disappointed by not getting in. I think it's more important to follow your rules than it is just to try and execute on every opportunity. Let's see what time it is now. Okay, well, if the market's going to go within the next hour, it should go. If it's going to go to that high. There you go. So NQ has purged it. Expect a slightly deeper purge, which should allow ES2. There you go. Okay. And where was that? What time was that? Yeah, there you go. 3 o'clock window. So there we have it. Unfortunate that, yes, there was an opportunity at the trade execution window to engage the market. I wanted to follow my rules and see the closure above. The M5 framework, however, was supporting the likelihood of that, and so it becomes a case of, could I have just taken a trade at half risk and accepted the risk of, if it comes back and takes out the BPR, then we get out of the trade. That's probably, in hindsight, a good approach. So yeah, probably one that got away there. Could have nailed 2R, a nice little trade in there. I think would have been pretty good. Shame. Something to note, and I will note that if the M5 framework, especially if it has a BPR which is being respected, is there? In fact, let's note it down. Why not? We're here. So it's a trade entry note. If the M5 confluences support the trade idea and the other asset has confirmed the high probability order block, OB, you can consider engaging the market on reduced risk on reduced risk. With the aim of the HP order block being confirmed imminently. There we go. So we're going to leave it at that. Hope you guys enjoyed this session. Another one, unfortunately, got away. You know, I think it's always good to stick to your rules. My rules are very clear. I need the confirmation of that order block. We essentially, if we go to the M5 with this SMT here, we essentially had the SMT confirmed. We could argue, if we wanted to, here, which meant that, yeah, this trade was viable. Would have had to have weathered everything, but again, if you manage the trade correctly and so on, then absolutely no reason why. It probably would have been more likely to have been stopped out than anything. But nonetheless, you live and learn. This is the whole process of this journey, is to kind of really double down on different things within my trading models and so on to ultimately be able to execute in high probability conditions. That was probably one we were always on the right side. In the end, it was game plan 2. No, sorry, it wasn't game plan 2. It was a bit of game plan 2. But what we weren't, but we looked at this previous day's low liquidity pool on NQ in alignment with the BISI here on ES. So essentially, game plan 2 is what, because I remember it was a very thin, if you remember, a very thin imbalance here. So traded down, took the liquidity below here instead. Ultimately, we had everything. We could argue this, the equal lows here was the H1 liquidity pool. Not ideal, but nonetheless, took out this H1 liquidity pool down here as well on NQ. So there we have it. I mean, NQ structurally, if we want to, let's just hold on. Let's just note this. We can actually note this here, if we will. If we note that NQ technically ticked all the boxes, so as soon as this was confirmed here on NQ, it was essentially indicating supporting higher prices that could have been taken. So yeah, an interesting one. Again, it was just a case of did we want to take the risk or not. In hindsight, I think it would have been worthwhile taking that risk, seeing the confirmation, and then ultimately taking the trade. So one of those things that is noted now, we can evaluate, and next time it turns up, we can evaluate and see if we take the trade. But anyway, hopefully you guys took something away from this session. Another missed trade, unfortunately. It was one of those, but learned something from this session, and looking forward to kind of implementing all of these things into the sessions ahead. So with that, on that note, I'm going to leave it there, and I will catch you guys in the next one.